All right, ladies and gentlemen and programmers, we're going to learn how to create a fireball. So the enemy is going to shoot at us, and we're going to use a prefab. Okay, so for the player's projectile, we were using a raycast, and because it's like a laser beam, the hit was instantaneous. It happened right away. For our enemy, we're going to actually shoot fireballs, and it's not the hits aren't going to be automatic. The fireballs are actually going to move and gives us a chance to dodge out of the way. Okay, so we're still gonna use a raycast a bit, but not in the same way. So instead of using a raycast to determine the hit point, the fireball is gonna have a collision detection, just like our guy has, just in the same way our main player can't walk through walls. And so in the same way, we have created the bad guys that keep respawning. We're gonna spawn a fireball, the bad guys' weaponry, by instantiating a prefab. Okay, so the first step is create a fireball object in the scene. So we're gonna do this. So go ahead and do that. So we're gonna go to game object 3D. We're gonna make a sphere, and we're going to rename it fireball. Okay, and so we're going to create a C# script named fireball as well, and then we're going to attach it to it. So we're going to go assets, create C# script, and we're going to call this fireball as well. We're not going to put in any code yet, but we need it. Okay, so I already have it. So I'm going to attach the fireball script to my fireball object. Let's see if it's going to do it. Take my fireball script, attach it to my fireball, and there it is. Okay, so let's see what's next. Okay, um, okay, we got it. Okay, so we're going to make the fireball look more fireballish. So we're going to choose assets, create material, and rename it flame. So we're going to go assets, create, and we're going to go material, and we're going to call this material the flame. Okay, and so this right here is the main color. So we're going to click on the main color here, and we're going to click on this thing, and we get our thing. And so you're going to choose a color that you think looks flame-like. Okay, so maybe more, let's maybe go more orangey. Let's try that. Yeah, something like that. That looks kind of flamey. Whatever you want. Okay, do something whatever you want. Okay, and so that's the color, and you can choose to make it as metallic or not. You can make it as smooth as you want. Okay, so I think it looks probably better less smooth. Um, let's see what else we need. So you can just play around with the other settings as much as you want. Okay, so now we're going to drag the flame material onto the fireball game object in the hierarchy. Okay, so there's the fireball. You're going to drag this onto the fireball, and so that if we were to zoom in, that fireball in the scene is going to look like that. Okay. So basically, if you hadn't guessed, this is the process of creating the fireball prefab. Okay. So we're in the process. We're making it from scratch. Okay. Um, Okay, so write this down in your notes. Material is a packet of information that defines the surface properties of an object, including color, shininess, and surface roughness. Okay. Okay, so drag the fireball game object into the assets to make it a prefab. So, as normal, when you make a prefab, you design it here, and then you're going to drag it down here. Okay, so now we have our fireball prefab. We have our fireball script and our fireball prefab, and so we're going to be able to spawn those in our guy. And so we can delete this here. We don't need it. We don't need it in our world anymore, in our scene, because now it's a prefab here. Alright, so we're going to create a new script called player character and attach it to the player object. And in the same way, we're going to leave that script empty for now. But we need to do this because we're going to refer to it in the code next. So we need to have it exist. We need to be able to talk to player character. So we need it. Okay. So go ahead and create a script. So you're going to go assets, create C# script, and you're going to call it. What are we going to call it? We're going to call it player character. I already have mine right there. So I'm just going to delete this one. Okay, but we're going to make this thing. Okay, so we have this guy called player character, and we're going to attach it to our player. Okay, so we're going to drag that to our player. Okay, and then so this script will allow the fireball to damage the player. So we're going to write code for the fireball that's going to talk to this guy, and it's going to damage the player. Okay, so so now here's where we're going to talk to it. So open up the wandering AI and add the code on the following slide. Okay, so we're going to go to our wandering AI. Where is that at? Okay, so we're going to open up our wandering AI script. Okay, so we're going to double click on that, open that up into mono development, wandering AI, and then this is the code that we're going to do. Oh, by the way, hold on, let's go back. This is the code. Okay, let's read this. Okay, this is the code that will modify the AI for the enemy so that if the ray. Okay, so the bad guy is going to shoot his raycast, right? And if his raycast hits a player, then it's saying, hey, you're facing towards the player, so he knows, oh, I need to fire my fireball. So if his raycast hits a player, he shoots a fireball. Okay, if the raycast hits a wall and he's super close, he knows that he needs to turn. Okay, so now we're modifying it to where it does more than it used to. So here's the code. Okay, so we can see, well, here's the code. Go ahead and copy that, modify the code to look like this. Okay, so you can see we have the void update. So now our void update is going to look like this. Let's take a look at what it does. Okay, so look, so we have our, our ray cast. So we made our ray. We're going to do a sphere cast, which means that it has a diameter. So it's not just one single point saying, hey, is there anything that you hit in a 0.75 diameter? Okay. So you have a box called, or a local variable called hit object. The only thing that can go into it is a game object, and what's going to go into it, whatever you hit, is going into this box called hit object. Okay. So if the hit object contains the player character, okay, well look, so the only guy that has this script called player character is the player. So if it hits the player, it grabs this script called player character that we're going to talk to it and basically tell it, hey, we're going to damage you. You just got hit by my fireball. Okay. Oh wait, not yet. Actually, I jumped ahead. But at any rate, the only way that um, the hit object is going to have this player character if it's a player. So if you just hit the player, um, and if there's fireballs null, so there's not already a fireball in the scene, then what are we going to do? We have this guy called fireball, and he's going to instantiate the prefab. Okay, so you should know what this does. It basically says, hey, take that prefab that you made, and we're going to put one in the scene. Okay, so right now we're going to say, hey, fireball is what? Hey, I want to transform you. I want to change your position. And we're going to move the fireball right in front of the enemy and face him in the same direction as the enemy down here. This is going to face him in the same direction as the enemy. Otherwise, if you didn't hit a player, but you hit something, that means you're about to run into a wall. So then what do we do? So if your ray is cast into a player, shoot the fireball. Otherwise, you got to turn. Okay, that's what that's doing. All right, testing out and see how it works. But answer that question in your notes. What is wrong? Okay, so be sure to add the fireball prefab to the inspector. Okay, so here's what we've got to do. So we're going to go to our enemy. We're going to go to the wandering AI script that we just modified. Okay, and you're going to make sure you grab not the fireball script, but the fireball prefab and drag it in there. Okay, so let's run it and see what it does, and we're going to figure out Okay, so let's get in front of this guy. Okay, so if you get in front of him, he shoots. Well, he doesn't shoot. He drops a fireball. Okay, but it's not doing what we want because number one, it needs to move, and then number two, it needs to damage us. So it doesn't do that yet. Okay, so what is wrong? It doesn't move and it doesn't damage us. Okay, we just answered that. Okay, so we need to make the fireball move. Write the code on the following slide into the fireball script. So we're going to write the code to make the fireball move. The script should already be attached to the fireball prefab. Okay, so there's the code. Write that in the fireball prefab, and let's talk about it. Um, okay, so we say I want a local variable called speed. That only thing that can go into it is a float, which is a decimal, and we're going to make it 10, so the fireball is going to move 10. Damage, so when it hits the guy, it's going to damage him 1. We could make a super fireball that does 10 damage. Okay, so eventually the fireball will do 1 damage to the player. We're not going to do that quite yet. Alright, so this is void update. This happens over and over. What's he going to do? It's going to move him forward speed, so it's going to move him forward 10.0 every single time. Write this down. Okay, on trigger is a special method that is triggered or runs every time the game object collides with something. Okay, so stick the empty. All right, blah 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 blah. Okay, so player character player. Stick the empty script player character in the player box if the player is the object that the fireball just collided with. If there is a player character script in the local player, basically, so if you just hit the guy, what is it going to do? It's just going to say player hit. Okay, at the bottom of the screen. And then it's going to remove it. So we're not going to, so it's going to move, it's going to say player hit. When the player's hit, it's not going to damage him yet, but we're going to do that eventually. Okay, so it moves, but let's figure out what's not quite right yet, so let's see what happens. Okay, so if I hit play, and let's get in my guy's way, if I can. Okay, so it shoots a fireball, and it'll tell me at the bottom I'm damaged, but look what's going on. I can't get him to fire another one. Okay, so let's see if we can get that to figure that out. Okay, so it moves, but it doesn't actually damage my guy. It just puts a little log at the bottom, and it won't shoot another one. Okay, it bounces off the player, and then the enemy never fires again. Okay, so we must make the collider a trigger. Click the is trigger checkbox in the fireball sphere collider compartment. Okay, so we have to basically adjust its collider. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're going to do here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the fireball prefab. We're going to go to its sphere collider, and it needs to be a trigger. So basically when it gets hit, something has to happen. Okay, then we're going to go to add component, and we're going to go to physics, and we're going to add a rigid body. Okay, so this is some other physics stuff that basically helps it. Okay, and then so we want to, so it needs to, we need the physics component of it, but as for the physics component of it, we don't want the gra gravity. So we don't want it to fall down. We want it just to keep shooting. Okay. All right. Let's try it now and find out what do we still need. Okay, so if you played it and figured it out, you can see the next step is to try to damage the player. So open the player character script that is attached to the player. Okay, so we're going to go to and add the cone showed on the following slide. Okay, so you're going to go to the player character. Where is it at? Player character. And you're going to add this code to it. No, where to go? Okay, so you're going to add this code to it. He has 5 health. Health minus equal damage. So whenever he gets, and by the way, public void. Yeah, so it's just going to display his health every time he gets hit. Now, but we have to actually ask it to do this, right? So we're going to write this code for the player. So we better do this here. Let's do this. Okay, so write this code and make sure you understand what this is. You have declaring an instance variable named health. You're initializing it to 5. You're sticking 5 in the box. Okay, creating a new method definition called hurt. So on and so forth. You can read through this. Okay, so now go back to the fireball script and add the following code. Okay, so player.hurt damage. So now the fireball script is going to actually call on that method that we just made. Okay, so here's what it's going to look like. Okay, so this is again in the fireball, and you're going to say player dot hurt damage. He's going to damage him 1. Okay, write that down. Okay, so now it should all piece together and work. So let's check it out. Alright, so we're going to get rid of this. We're going to type in this. We're going to get rid of this. We don't want the debug anymore. We're going to save it. And let's see what happens. We should have our enemy shoot fireballs at us now. Let's see, and be able to damage us. Okay, yeah, so let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, so now you can see down here, my health went down to 4. So, and he'll keep, now the good thing too is he'll keep shooting fireballs. Okay, so it works pretty good. For now, we're going to be fine with just displaying the health and the log. We'll deal with that at another time. So here's our summary. Array is an imaginary line projected into the scene. You can use Arraycast for both shooting and then sensing obstacles in the ways. We did a little very simple artificial intelligence by making our character wander around. We know that now that new objects are spawned by instantiating prefabs, and we also dealt with coroutines a couple times. They're used to pause one method while keeping all the others going. And that is the end of lesson 3.